Good day everyone, and welcome to module number 2, lesson number 4, review of analytic geometry. We are referencing plane and solid mensuration with solid analytic geometry by Ernesto Manzanares, calculus with analytic geometry by Thurman Peterson, created by Sir R Squared for online class lecture 2020. In order to describe the position of a point in a plane, we form what is called a system of rectangular or Cartesian coordinates. First, draw a pair of perpendicular reference lines, x and y. These lines divide the plane into 4 parts called the quadrants. This is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4 as shown in the figure. The horizontal line is called the x-axis and the vertical line is called the y-axis. Altogether, they are known as the coordinate axes. Their point of intersection, O, is called the origin, 0, 0. The position of any point in the plane can be described by giving its distance from these two axes. To measure such distances, we arbitrarily choose some units of length and agree that distances measured to the right of the y-axis shall be positive and those to the left of the y-axis shall be considered negative. Similarly, distances measured upward from the x-axis are positive and below the x-axis will be considered negative. Let point P represent any point on the plane whose distance from the y-axis is x and whose distance from the x-axis is y. The value x thus obtained is called the abscissa or the x-coordinate of the point P, and y is called the ordinate or y-coordinate. Together, these values are called the rectangular coordinates of point P, and we write them in the form parentheses x, comma, y, parentheses. The position of a point is determined if its coordinates are known. Conversely, if the position of a point is known, its coordinates can be found by measuring the distance from the two axes. The process of locating points when their coordinates are given is called plotting the points. In quadrant 1, the abscissa x is positive and the ordinate y is positive. In quadrant 2, the abscissa x is negative and the ordinate y is positive. In quadrant 3, the abscissa is negative and the ordinate is negative. And in quadrant 4, the abscissa or the x-coordinate is positive and the ordinate or the y-coordinate is negative. Okay, magandang umaga ulit sa ating lahat mga kababayan. Mukhang hindi si Sir R Squared yata yung nagsasalita ngayon, ano? Parang nagsiseryoso. Masyadong mabigat ang dating. Pagaanin po natin mga kababayan. Ito raw po ay tinatawag na rectangular coordinates, pair of two lines, ano? Yung number lines na horizontal at number lines na vertical. Yung vertical number line ay tinatawag nating y-axis at yung horizontal line is tinatawag nating x-axis. Alam kong alam nyo na to, pero linawin lang natin as a review, ano? Yung intersection daw nila, ang tawag dyan ay origin wherein the abscissa is 0 and the ordinate is 0. Ano nga ba yung abscissa? Yung abscissa raw, yun yung x-coordinate measured from the y-axis. Okay? At yung ordinate naman, ay yun yung y-coordinate that will be measured from the x-axis. That is a vertical distance measured from the x-axis. That is the ordinate. And the abscissa, again, will be the x-coordinate that is measured horizontally from the y-axis. So, maliwanag po tayo nun, ano? Kapag raw gumawa ka ng ganyan at siya ay perpendicular 90 degrees, magkakaroon siya ng 4 na subdivision. Ang tawag daw po natin doon quadrants. We are going counterclockwise, so this is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. Ang sign daw po ng x sa first quadrant ay positive at ang y ay positive. Sa second quadrant, negative yung x, positive yung y. Sa third quadrant, negative yung x, negative yung y. And sa fourth quadrant, positive yung x and negative yung y. Tandaan nyo po kapag kami sinasabi tayo sa calculus na abscissa, that is pertaining to the x-coordinate. At kapag sinabi ng problem, ordinate lang, that is pertaining to the y-coordinate. So, maliwanag po tayo, no? Ngayon, para daw po makuha yung point na yon, ang tawag daw po doon ay ilulocate natin, ano? Mine-measure natin, ang tawag daw po doon ay plotting of points. So, I hope na-refresh po tayo ng malinaw dito sa ating Cartesian coordinate. Example, draw a line connecting the points A, negative 2, positive 3, and B, positive 1, negative 1. Meron daw po tayong dalawang points, A and B. Nag-pre-draw na po ako dito ng Cartesian coordinates para makasave po tayo ng time, ano? At imagine niyo, kunwari may graphing paper tayo, this is the x-axis and this is the y-axis. This is our origin. Bawat isang subdivision ng ating graphing paper will be 1 unit. Okay. We locate point A, so negative 2, we measure from y-axis 2 units to the left kasi negative, and then upward 3 units, and this will be our point A. We do the same for point B. We measure 1 unit to the right because that is positive 1, and 1 unit below x, that is negative 1, and this will be our point B. Now, if we are going to project this one vertically and this one, it will have an intersection at magkakaroon siya ng 90 degrees. So, we are going to form a triangle. In this case, pwede natin makuha yung distance na to by Pythagorean theorem. So, anong sinasabi sa atin ng Pythagorean theorem? Naalala ko, bugbog na bugbog sa atin yung Pythagorean theorem na yan, or yung theorem ni Pythagoras, noong tayo ay nasa review of trigonometry. So, ang sabi sa atin, the square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares of its catheti. So, the catheti are the two legs, no? If we call this as our R and we call this as our A and this is our B, R squared is equal to, what is A? The distance of A can be measured here, graphically. So, 1 unit, 2 unit, 3 units. Tama? 3 units yung distansya from x2 to x1, no? So, that will be squared, and then plus the vertical distance from the 2 points will be 1, 2, 3. Tatlo to, no? At nandito po ako, no? 1, 2, 3 plus 1, that will be 4. So, we will have 4 units squared. Therefore, R is equal to the square root of 9 plus 16, and that is equal to the square root of 25. We will have 5 as our distance, 5 units. Wala pa pong meters, ano, kasi units pa lang po tayo. Wala pa po tayong inilalagay na units. Now, from this theorem of Pythagoras, we can derive an equation which is what we call the distance formula. This will be applicable to any distance between 2 points. Tandaan nyo po, 2 points determine a line. Okay. 2 points determine a line and the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. Tandaan nyo po yung binitawan kong yon dahil yun po ay theorem sa ating analytic geometry. Uulitin ko, 2 points determine a line and the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So, maliwanag po tayo. Similarly, if we want to get the distance between 2 points using the Pythagorean theorem or the theorem of Pythagoras, we say d squared is equal to, so the distance from x2 to x1, x2 minus x1, parang katulad dito, and then in-square natin, plus the distance from y2 minus y1. Tapos in-squared natin. Ayun, no? The square of its cathety. Now, d is equal to the square root of x sub 2 minus x sub 1 quantity squared plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 quantity squared. This will be our distance formula. Go now to the example. Find the distance between the points negative 3, 1 and 3, negative 2. We are done with the plotting, Although, mas magandang ipinaplat natin, but sometimes, sa mga problem, hindi na natin kailangan ipinaplat. Tapos na tayo sa plotting, bibigyan ko na lang kayo ng maraming activities para masanay kayo sa plotting. By this time, we are going to apply the distance formula. So, ano ba yung sinasabi sa atin ng distance formula? The distance formula states that d is equal to the square root of x sub 2 minus x sub 1 quantity squared plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 quantity squared. Now, let us call this as our point 2 and this is our point 1. Therefore, d is equal to the square root of, so we are having x2 which is 3 minus negative 3 quantity squared and then plus y sub 2 which is negative 2 minus y sub 1 which is 1 quantity squared. Therefore, d is equal to the square root of 3 negative and negative will be plus 3 quantity squared plus this will be negative 2 minus 1 will be negative 3 quantity squared. Therefore, we will be having d as the square root of, this will be 3 plus 3, that will be 6 quantity squared plus that will be 9. Or that will be d is equal to the square root of 36 plus 9, the square root of 45. And idamay na rin natin yung algebra dito, no? And 45 is, we can express 45 as the product of 9 times 5. Therefore, we can simplify this as the square root of 9 is equal to 3 square root of 5. Ayan. Isinama na po natin yung algebra. Now, you may wonder, sir, paano ba to? Paano ko nagkabaliktaran? Sabungan na naman, Baliktaran. Sabihin natin, ito yung naging point, ito yung gusto kong gawing point 2, o from point 1 tayo to point 2, or ito yung gawin nating point 1, ito yung gawin nating point 2. Sa distance formula, it doesn't matter. I will prove to you right now. Kaya nga itong example na to ang kinuha ko kasi this will be the only example na hindi na ako magbibigay pa ng maraming example kasi baliktaran yan, may mga negative na dyan. Let us try. Sa kabila tayo manggaling. If the distance formula will hold waters, d is equal to the square root of, now, ito na yung point 2 natin, x sub 2 naman tayo ngayon, so paano gagawin natin ngayon kung x sub 2 tayo? That will be negative 3 minus 3. Tapos plus 1, okay, minus negative 2 quantity squared. Ayan. So D will be equal to, this will be having squared, no? The square root of negative 6 quantity squared plus 1 plus 2 will be 3 quantity squared. Naging positive 2 po yun, negative times negative will be positive. Okay? Positive 3 squared. So, D will be equal to the square root of 36 plus 9. Okay, and this will be equal to the square root of 45. And 45 can be written as 9 times 5. Tama? Therefore, D is equal to 3 square root of 5. We get the same answer whatever which way. So the distance formula does not affect. Observe that the order in which the points are taken is immaterial. Okay, I hope this will help. We have another example. Show that points A at negative 1, 2, point B at positive 2, 1, and point C at 3, negative 2 are vertices of an isosceles triangle. Two ways this can be solved. Una, gagamitin mo yung graphical method and then you have to plot the points and then connect the dots. If the two sides of the triangle becomes equal, that is an isosceles triangle. So that is one of the properties of an isosceles triangle. If you remember our review in trigonometry, isosceles triangle means that the two sides are equal. Now, if you do not have the luxury of time when you are in the examination, you can use your knowledge in analytic geometry and say, we say that AB, okay, AB is equal to the square root of, so that is from A to B, that will be 2 minus negative 1 quantity squared. And then we have plus 1 minus 2 quantity squared. So this one will be minus 1, 3 squared plus 1 minus negative 1 squared. This will be square root of 10, right? Because this will be 9 and this will be 1, square root of 10. We have here AC. AC is equal to the square root of, so 3 minus negative 1 quantity squared plus negative 2 minus 2 quantity squared. Ayan. So this will be negative 4 squared, 16. This will be what? This will be negative 1. This will be 16 also, because this is 4 squared also. So we have 16 plus 16. That will be square root of 32. And finally, we have BC. What is BC? The square root of 3 minus 2 quantity squared plus negative 2 minus 1 quantity squared. Okay. This will be 3 minus 2, that will be 1 squared plus negative 3 quantity squared. This will be 9 plus 1 square root of 10. There you have it. We have square root of 10 and square root of 10. AB is equal to BC. AB is equal to BC. Therefore, it is an isosceles triangle. Isosceles triangle. Okay. So I hope with this illustration, you will be on your own. solving problems using distance formula.
We have another theorem. If point P at x, y is a point on the line joining P1 at point x1, y1 and P2 at x2, y2, and if P is located so that P1, P is equal to K P1, P2, then x is equal to x sub 1 plus k x sub 2 minus x sub 1, and y is equal to y sub 1
Plus
k times the quantity y sub 2 minus y sub 1. We have to illustrate that using a problem. If the line in the figure is extended from A, negative 2, negative 1, through point B, which is positive 1, positive 1, to a point C, so that AB is equal to BC, we have K is equal to 2.
So this is the y-axis and this is the x-axis.
We have a point A, negative 2, negative 1, ito daw yon, and we have point B, which is 1, 1, and if we have to extend that line so that it will extend a point, arbitrary point x, y, okay, so that AB is equal to BC, so we have a K of 2. Therefore, by direct substitution, we have x is equal to negative 2 plus 2 times the
quantity. This 2 is the k times the quantity 1, okay, that is x sub 2, minus negative 2 is equal to 4. Take note, kahit baliktarin nyo yan, kahit dito kayo manggaling papunta rito, 4 din yung lalabasan. And y is equal to negative 1, okay, that is negative 1 plus 2, which is the k, plus 1 minus negative 1 is equal to 3. Take note, either which way you experiment it, ganyan din lalabas. Alright, I hope you get the gist of what I'm saying.
We have a corollary to the previous theorem. If P at x and y is the midpoint of segment joining P1 at x1, y1
and P2 at x2, y2, then x is equal to 1 half of x sub 1 plus x sub 2, and y is equal to 1 half of y1 plus y sub 2.
We have to illustrate this using a problem. Find the midpoint of the line segment joining points 2, negative 5 and 4, negative 1. We have pre-illustrated the problem here. We have here points 2, negative 5 and negative 4, negative 1. We are asked to find the midpoint of this line segment joining these 2 points. To find the midpoint of this line segment, we are going to use this formula. By direct substitution, we have x is equal to 1 half times 2 minus 4. And we will end up with negative 1. Y is equal to 1 half times negative 5 minus 1, and that will be equal to negative 3. Therefore, the midpoint of this line segment joining these 2 points is at negative 1, negative 3. Inclination and slope. If a line drawn on a coordinate system, as in the figure below, intersects the x-axis, we define the inclination of the line to be the least counterclockwise angle theta through which the x-axis must be rotated about the point of intersection in order to bring it into coincidence with the line. The inclination of a line parallel to the x-axis is by definition equal to 0. The slope of the line, usually denoted by m, is defined as the tangent of the inclination, that is m, equal to tangent of theta. The slope of the line can also be expressed in terms of coordinates of any two of its points in the following way. M is equal to y sub 2 minus y sub 1 all over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. With the coordinate axis in its proper position, we see that the line sloping upward to the right has a positive slope, and line sloping downward to the right has a negative slope. Herewith is the formula for the slope with its corresponding definition. Linawin natin mabuti. I prepare to make a Tagalog explanation on this kasi napaka-importante nito dito sa differential calculus, itong slope, no? Malalaman yan pag nasa limits tayo at saka nasa slopes on the line, ano? Kanina, napakahaba nung paliwanag tapos sa English pa, so Tagalogin natin. O, hayaan yung ipaliwanag ko sa ganitong paraan, ano? Tandaan nyo, 4 na klaseng line lang meron tayo. 4. Okay, totoo yan. Yung isang line na pag ganito, let me draw, no? Isang line pag ganito, yan. Yung isang line pag ganito, right? Yung isang line vertical at yung isang line horizontal. So 4 lang, ano? May nakita ba kayong iba pa bukod doon na posible? Wala na. Okay, tama, wala na. Ngayon, yung slope daw ng line, yung tinatawag na slope ng line, yan daw yung tinatawag na inclination ng line kapag nag-intersect ito sa x-axis. At yan daw ay sinusukat magmula dito sa x-axis to the point of intersection, at tinatawag daw natin yan angle of theta. Okay? Angle of inclination, ano? Theta. Kailangan you are going counterclockwise from here. Dito ang simula ng 0 mo, counterclockwise. Okay? Now, yung slope daw, ang tawag dyan, tangent of theta. Kasi nga, opposite over adjacent. Kasi yung slope daw, m is equal to y over x. Okay? So, if that is 2 points, y1 y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So, yan lang daw po ang takeaways natin sa slope. Ito naman yung formula. Okay, ito yung formula. General formula. At may tagubilin, ano? Kapag ka daw pag ganito, pag ganyan ang line, ang slope daw ay positive. Kapag ka pag ganito daw ang line, pag ganyan, negative ang slope. Maliwanag? Kapag ka parallel to the x-axis, 0 ang slope, at kapag ka parallel to the y-axis or 90 degrees from the x-axis, ang tawag daw po ay undefined. Parallel and perpendicular lines. If two lines are parallel, they have the same inclination and therefore their slopes are equal. Lines parallel to the y-axis are excluded because their slopes are undefined. Theorem number 1. Two lines are parallel if and only if their slopes are equal. Meaning to say, M1 is equal to M2. Theorem number 2. Conversely, two lines are perpendicular if and only if the slope of one is the negative reciprocal of the other. Meaning to say, M2 is equal to negative 1 over M sub 1. We have to illustrate using an example. Prove that points A, positive 3, negative 1, point B, negative 1, positive 1, and point C, 0, positive 3, are vertices of a right triangle. We have pre-drawn here the illustration in order to save some time. Point A is 3, negative 1. This is point B, which is negative 1 and 1. And this is point C, which is 0 and 3. If we can prove that one or two of these lines here will have a negative reciprocal of the other, then we can prove that they are perpendicular. And if they are perpendicular, they will form a 90-degree angle. And we know that a right triangle is a triangle that is having a 90-degree angle. That is how we are going to attack this problem. Therefore, first off, we are going to get the slope of A to B. To get the slope of A, B, we have x2 which is negative, y2 which is positive 1, and then minus negative 1, that is y1, all over, we have to erase this one, okay, all over x2 which is negative 1, and then minus 3. This will be equal to 1 plus 1 over negative 4. Therefore, this is 2 over negative 4, and this will be negative 1/2. We go now to BC. So we get the slope of BC, and we say that will be 3 minus 1 all over 0 minus 1. Okay. 0 minus negative 1. Alright. Therefore, we have here positive 2 divided by positive 1. This will be 2. If you try to notice, BC is 2 and AB is negative 1 over 2. Therefore, A, B, and C are vertices of a right triangle. Okay? Because their slope is the negative reciprocal of the other. In case you may wonder, paano sir kung nagkabaliktad, ano? Paano kung dito kami nagsimula, ito ginawa naming x2, ito ginawa naming x1, o itong ginawa naming x1, ito yung ginawa naming x2. Do not worry, it has been taken care of, kaya nga minus yung nilagay doon, kahit magkabaliktad yung pagpasok mo ng coordinates, halimbawa sinabi mo ito ay x1 at ito sinabi mong x2, pares din ang lalabas, no? You try it yourself and you will still be arriving at negative 1/2 for AB and positive 2 for BC, no? So, I hope that will erase your worries. Angle between two lines. A line L2 intersecting a line L1 forms two supplementary angles. Yung supplementary angles, two angles that when you add together will have a sum of 180 degrees, either of which may be considered as the angle between the lines. For example, this is L1 and this is L2. Kahit daw papanong intersection ang gawin mo, they will form supplementary angle, as in these two examples. You can experiment it yourself. Gumawa ka pa rin ng mga ibang at kumuha ka ng protractor, sukatin mo, it will form supplementary angle. If either of the given lines is parallel to the y-axis, Formula 1 is meaningless. In this case, however, one of the inclination is 90 degrees. Say, theta sub 1 is 90 degrees. If phi is the counterclockwise angle formed in rotating L1 to L2, and this is P, then tangent of P is equal to M1 minus M2 all over 1 plus M1 times M2, wherein M1 and M2 are the respective slopes of the line. In geometry, a locus, plural, loci, Latin word for place or location, is a set of all points, commonly a line segment, a curve, or a surface, whose location satisfies or is determined by one or more specified conditions. In analytic geometry, we say that a point whose coordinates are fixed is a constant point, and a point with at least one variable coordinate is a variable point. The curve traced by a variable point as it moves in a plane is called locus of the point. The locus of an equation is a curve containing those points and only those points whose coordinates satisfy the equation. Etong locus na to, napaka-importante rin ito sa ating pag-aaralang calculus kasi more on finding the limits tayo, no? Finding the limits, finding the slope, that is tangent. Okay, the tangent line to the curve, no? So, yung locus daw, yan daw yung set of points na nagsasatisfy o sumusunod sa isang kondisyon. For example, we are given this point, this one. Now, for example, the statement says that the points are equidistant from this point, 5 units. So what will be the locus of the points? The graph of the point will be, the graph of the locus will be something like a circle, because anywhere it will be 5 meters from the center line.
That is the condition that is satisfied. Ngayon, kapag ka merong 6 meters na nandito, hindi siya kasama sa locus. So, maliwanag ano? Yung locus, isinasama niya lang yung nagsatisfy sa condition. Okay, para mas madali. Yung mga sumusunod lang sa kondisyon, yun lang yung kasama sa locus. Pero kapag ka merong tumaliwas sa kondisyon, hindi siya kasama sa locus. Para mas madali natin maintindihan. Ano? Kasi itong locus na to, maraming nalilito rito. Sir, malapit yan sa malapit yan sa may pagudpud. O, ilocos yun. Ano? Hindi. Kaya wag kayong lolokos-lokos. Kasi mahirap itong locus na to. No? Ayan, yan ang tandaan nyo yan. Para madali nyong matandaan, kapag ka hindi siya kasama doon sa, halimbawa, ang graph ng point ay parabolang ganyan, tas merong napahiwalay na isa, hindi kasama sa locus yun, ano? Or pa-circle yung ating equation, the locus of the point is a circle. Ito raw ang, ito, bibigay ko na sa inyo yung mga sikreto ng locus, ano? 5 daw ang rules sa locus. Kapag ka given ka ng point, o di isa lang ang kondisyon yan, malamang the locus of points is a circle. Okay, bilog. If you are given 2 points, 1, 2, ano ang pwedeng locus niyan? O di ang locus ng point niyan is a straight line. Tama? O kasi ito lang mga locus ng point na pwede niyang... Ngayon, yung pinakita ko to, malalayo pa yung point na to, no? Ito, malalayo pa rin to. Pwede pa itong dagdagan, kagaya nito. Halimbawa, pwede kang maglagay dito, pwede ka pa rin maglagay dito. So, ganun din. Ito rin sa, hanggang maging line siya. Okay? So, tandaan nyo lang, kapag ang given ay point, ang locus of points is a circle. Kapag given ay 2 points, the locus of a point is a straight line. Kung ang given naman ay isang line, ang maaaring ang locus niya ay 2 parallel lines sa taas at sa baba. Kung ang given naman ay 2 parallel line, so ang locus niya, isang line sa pagitan nila. It cannot be up or it cannot be down kasi hindi na niya masasatisfy dito sa gitna. So, sa gitna lang. Equidistant from here to here, from here to there. Now, kapag ka naman intersecting lines, okay, halimbawa, ito, intersecting lines, the locus of points are perpendicular. Tapos, nasa middle, hahatiin niya. It will divide the intersection into half. Okay, so yan. Sana maliwanag na tayo, no? Kapag ka nakita nyo ang given ay point, the locus is a circle. 2 points, di line. 2 lines, di isang line sa gitna. A line, di parallel line. So, maliwanag po tayo doon. We have an example. Find the equation of the locus of a point which moves so that the distance from the point C34 is always 5. So, this is the center at 3 and 4. I already pre-drawn this one. And the radius is 5. Okay. So we are asked to find the equation of this locus. Okay. Equation of the locus of these points here. So suppose that this is point P, X and Y. What we're going to do is we apply distance formula. D squared is equal to x sub 2 minus x sub 1 quantity squared plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 quantity squared. Then we have 5 squared is equal to x minus 3 quantity squared plus y minus 4 quantity squared. I substituted the value of x sub 1 and y sub 1 here. Okay. Now,
Simplifying, we've got 25 is equal to the square of the first, x squared, minus twice the product of the square roots, negative 6x, plus square of the last, positive 9, plus square of the first, y squared, minus twice the product of the square roots, minus 4, minus 8y, plus 16. And simplifying values, we obtain x squared plus y squared minus 6x minus 8y is equal to 0. Equation of a straight line. A line is a locus of point which has a constant slope. For example, we have this as point O and this one as point P. P is at xy and O is at OB. Now, if we're going to measure this one, this is x and this is 0. This length here is x minus 0. And this one is y and this is b. This length here is y minus b. Now, if we're going to get the slope, we all know the slope is the rise over the run. Therefore, slope is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x of 1. Therefore, the slope is equal to, what is y2? That is y minus b. Alright? Y minus b over x2, that is x minus 0. Cross multiplication, we have m x minus 0 is equal to y minus b. Therefore, we have y is equal to mx. Transpose this to the other side of the equation, plus b. This is the very famous slope-intercept form. Y is equal to mx plus b. Theorem 1 on lines. Every straight line can be expressed by an equation of the first degree. Ano ba ibig sabihin itong first degree? Titingnan mo yung pinakamataas na exponent doon sa expression or doon sa equation. O iba rin yung expression, iba yung equation ha. Kapag ka algebraic expression, walang equality sign. Kapag ka naging equation siya, may equal sign na, no? Kaya nga equation. Sana malinaw tayo doon. Titingnan mo yon at kapag ka siya ay lahat ay first degree o walang exponent, pag first degree kasi walang exponent, no? So may exponent siya 1 pero hindi na nilalagay. Therefore, siya daw ay straight line. Kapag second degree, quadratic na yon, ano? Theorem number 2, the locus of an equation of the first degree is always a straight line. O yun daw, equation ng first degree is always a straight line. There are different forms of the linear equation. The first one is the general equation of line ax plus by plus c is equal to 0. Ito yung pamosong alam natin magmula elementary. Then we have the point slope form. Bakit? Merong may point at merong slope. Therefore, y minus y sub 1 is equal to the slope m times the quantity x minus x sub 1. And then number 3, the slope intercept, where b is the y-intercept. This b is the y-intercept. The y-intercept of the graph is the point where the graph crosses the y-axis. Yung x-intercept, where the graph crosses the x-axis. Maliwanag tayo, no? B yan sa notation at A naman yan sa ibang form, no? Therefore, we have this very famous y is equal to mx plus b. The fourth type is equal to y minus y sub 1 is equal to y sub 2 minus y sub 1 all over x sub 2 minus x sub 1 times the quantity x minus x sub 1. So this is the two-point form wherein this whole thing here is the slope. We have another form number 5, the intercept form. X over A plus Y over B is equal to 1, wherein A is the x-intercept and B is the y-intercept respectively. The x-intercept is the point at which the graph touches the x-axis, and the y-intercept is the point at which the graph touches the y-axis. Form number 6 is the normal form. X cosine of alpha plus y sine of alpha is equal to P. If we have this illustration here, this is the y-axis and this is the x-axis, and we have this line, and we want to draw a line that is perpendicular or normal to that line, and we call that line P, and we call this angle here alpha. We can say that this opposite side is P sine alpha, and this adjacent side is P cosine alpha. Therefore, from this equation, y minus y sub 1 is equal to m times x minus x sub 1. We can derive some formula. Y minus P sine of alpha is equal to m times x minus P cosine of alpha. This is the slope. Remember, we are getting the slope of P, and P is the perpendicular line to N. So what is the theorem that we have learned in perpendicular lines? If two lines are perpendicular, their slope is the negative reciprocal of the other, negative 1 over m. But what is m in this case? M in this case is sine over cosine, and that is equal to tangent. So we can say that this one here is negative 1 over tangent of theta. So I would like to highlight this one para hindi po kayo malito na ito ay slope of the perpendicular line that is normal to the given line, which is N. That is the slope of P. Now, we can say y minus P sine of alpha is equal to negative cosine of alpha. Sorry, this is not theta, this is alpha. Cosine of alpha over sine of alpha. Bakit naging ganyan naman? Kasi nga, reciprocal ng tangent, okay? Reciprocal ng tangent, negative, no? Negative reciprocal ng tangent. Eh, yung tangent, sine over cosine, therefore, cosine over sine times x minus P cosine of alpha. Therefore, cross-multiplying by sine alpha y minus P sine of alpha is equal to negative cosine of alpha times x. Right? May x doon, ano? Minus, or it becomes plus P cosine squared of alpha. Okay. So we have here y sine of alpha minus P sine squared of alpha is equal to negative x cosine of alpha plus P cosine squared of alpha. We rearrange, we will have y sine of alpha plus x cosine of alpha is equal to P cosine squared of alpha plus P sine squared of alpha. If we factor out P in this case, we can write it like this one, right? So we just erase P here and we have factored out P. But what is this one? This one is an identity that is equal to 1. Therefore, there you have it. Y sine of alpha plus x cosine of alpha is equal to P. Ito po yung ating normal form. If we go on with the derivation, the normal form reduces to ax over plus or minus the square root of a squared plus b squared plus by all over plus or minus the square root of a squared plus b squared is equal to negative c all over plus or minus the square root of a squared plus b squared, wherein the sign of the radical is chosen so that the right side, negative c all over plus or minus the square root of a squared plus b squared will be positive. Hindi ko na po pinakita yung derivation kasi medyo mahaba. We are just in the review. Anyway, this will be the form, the normal form. Ang importante lang daw dito, you choose the sign of the radicals na kailangan ito ay magpa-positive. You have to choose the value of the radicals so that the right side of the equation will be positive. Intersection of lines. If two lines are not parallel or coincident means coincide, parang magkapatong pero hindi sila nagdidikit. They interact on a single point. Since the coordinates of this point satisfy the equation of both lines, their values can be found by solving the two equations simultaneously for x and y. Example, find the point of intersection of the lines whose equations are x plus 2y minus 7 is equal to 0 and x minus y minus 1 is equal to 0. We are going to solve this using algebra. So we rewrite the equation x plus 2y minus 7 is equal to 0 and x minus y minus 1 is equal to 0. If we're going to subtract, we can cancel the x term. Therefore, we change the sign of the subtrahend and we proceed to addition. We will end up with 3y minus 6 is equal to 0. Therefore, y is equal to positive 2. If we substitute this y value to this equation, we will have x minus 2 minus 1 is equal to 0. We will have x is equal to positive 3. So there you have it, the point of intersection of the equations x plus 2y minus 7 is equal to 0 and x minus y minus 1 is equal to 0 is at point 3 positive 2. For ease of uploading, we shall terminate our discussion and be back with another video presentation covering analytic geometry. Again, this has been Sir R Squared, leaving you with a note. Ingat lagi, kain dami at tulog aga. Ang lahat ng parangal at papuri ay sa Diyos Amang makapangyarihan sa lahat, nagahari noon ngayon magpakailanman, magpasawalang hanggan. Amen. To God be the glory. Thank you very much and may God bless us all.